Okay. Let's see here. If you guys are seeing this, I'm just working a little bit on this setup here. Thought I would give this live stream a bit of a go. And we're not playing Massive Darkness, that's wrong. We're playing Aventuria. Aventuria. Okay. And gaming category. Fix that. Hopefully that's right. Right. Okay. So, let me get another phone and just verify that we do. That we are in fact live. Let's see here. Activity. Subscriptions. Oh. Live stream. Okay. Cool. I think. Oh. Oh, well, that's. Where's the other one? Let's see here. Oh, we got. Hey, look at that. Ain't that something? Uh-oh. Crap, I can't screw this up if Eric's watching. Okay. Oh. Jenna says she's going to sleep. What? Oh. Okay. Well, that's cool. Y'all headed back tonight, right? I think. Okay. So, what we're streaming today, hopefully it says let's see, hold on a second. Video settings, please use keyframe sequence. Keyframe sequence. What? Settings. Let's see here. Let me check something here. Well, crap, I can't. Keyframe sequence. Okay, I don't know really what it's talking about. Because my keyframe sequence is... Okay. Can you see and hear pretty good, Eric? Is it like too choppy, or is it choppy at all? I'm just trying to... Dang. Oh, okay. Alright, so Aventuria. Aventuria is a card game very much like Pathfinder, Rise of the Runelords, or any of the Pathfinder series. You have these decks. It's a story-driven deal. I'm going to play the first act in a 3-act series. Most of the campaign, I guess you would say, there's these story arcs that are usually 3 acts, and the system does have a campaign type setting where you, at the end of an act, you can carry over some XP and gear and whatnot and put that in your deck of all the players, whoever you're playing, and use them in the next set if you want to do that. Each player that you're playing as has a deck of cards. You can, create your own deck, and the book will tell you how to do that. Otherwise, you can use the pre-constructed decks, which is what I'm going to use. Each act has some cards and a different setup, and as you read the story, it will actually tell you all that. So what we're going to do, now there's a little bit of a spoiler here. If you want to play the first act through and not know how anything goes, you probably don't want to watch. But if you don't care, and I'm not going to play the other acts, just going to do this first one because it's pretty simple, then we'll go. So first, let's talk about setup. So when you set up the game, you're going to read through the story. I've done a little bit of pre-setup. I know that these are the cards that are coming out for the act, and I already know that we're going to do a normal time scale. So basically the time scale is how fast, how many turns, how many rounds, I guess if you want to call it that you have to complete a combat when that happens, which you kind of have story, which we'll read through, and then you have combat. 2, 3. So, and actually the story sometimes will dictate maybe some kind of something that'll happen in combat. Maybe you start with one less card, or you get extra fate points, which are kind of like, I guess you would say like rerolls and do-overs that you can use for different things. So I have only played this through a couple times, so I'm still learning. So if you're watching this in the future, when I screw up, don't scream too loud, because it's bound to happen. So what I've got here is I've got the book. This is the story book. And so you go through the story, and you have some die rolls that you make with one or more heroes. And the success, critical success, or critical failure will determine what happens to you. So let's get on with the story. Okay, I'm just going to skip that word. In the late autumn of 1039 BF, your voyage has led you to Perennes-Furten, the capital of the province of Tobrine. To your great dissatisfaction, the northern town turns out to be little more than a small settlement with not much to offer. This is no wonder, as the city's only purpose is to serve the Tobrian Duke as provisional seat of government until the conquered lands of Tobrian have been recaptured from the treacherous demon worshippers. This puts you into a tight spot as your money and supplies begin to run out. How in the world are you going to make it through the winter? In your privation, you are ready to accept any assignment that might come along, but then the fortune favors you again, and one of you receives a very special letter. So we take a break, and it says randomly decide which player receives the letter. He reads the following paragraph out loud. So what I've done is, in this mythical bag of holding, aka like $1.50 bag off BGG. If you want them, get them. They're awesome. I have 2 tokens, this size token, that are the characters. So I'm going to reach in and randomly pull out of the bag. You can hear it shuffling around, so you know I'm not doing any kind of shenanigans here. Give it a little shuffle, 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 shuffle. This is Rahdo's shuffling song. Alright, there we go. And the heir is the mage. Okay. Mirhaban Alorima. We'll go with that. We'll call her Myra. So she is the heir. Alright. And that is going to make a difference later on down the road. I do know that. So Myra, who by the way is the mage, and then we have an elf scout. We'll call her Leariel. And I'll kind of talk about how combat and all that works when we get to it, just so we can continue to move. So here's the letter. I am sorry that as your mother I haven't sent you any messages lately. Since our falling out, a lot of things have changed in my life. In my late years, I finally decided to marry the Duke of Wildenstein. Your deceased father would probably not have objected to a man of high birth. I hope you agree. But with this good news comes also painful news. As my new husband died after only 2 years from a mysterious sickness. I write you from his deathbed, as he is without an heir, and I have already reached the twilight of my life. I want to forget about all the bad things between us, and ask for you to hurry over here and claim his heritage before the greedy gentry or the warlords of the Shadowlands stake their claims. Your loving mother. So it says, assemble all the wilding cards. Assemble all the wilding cards and pick the card heir. The player who received the letter places this card openly in front of herself, and for the rest of the adventure is considered the heir. So I need to find that card, because I did not grab that card. Ah, this is the card. Ha ha ha. Silly me. Okay, so we'll just put this over here. This is the first player token, just so we know who's first player. And then I'm going to put the what we fight along here. Okay. All right, so cool. And I put it on the wrong person. That's not cool. And I'm going to put it slightly different. We're going to put it over here. You can still see that in the shot. Yeah, cool. All right. Before you begin your journey, you visit the archives in the temples and in the Council of Parenfurten. I'm going to say that wrong every time I say it, just so you guys know. Don't get mad. Get glad. To find out more about the Wildenstein barony. Maybe this information can be helpful to you later on. Each hero must make a knowledge roll. All right, so each hero has a card, and there is a series of the equivalent of stats. Okay, so you've got body control, crafting, knowledge, perception, persuade, stealth, survival, and willpower, and they're all slightly different for each hero. And this game is kind of different in how you roll. So when you're rolling for combat, well, we'll talk about combat later. So let's make a knowledge check. Well, any roll or test, you take the number that they've got. So in this case, we're doing knowledge. So we'll start with the heir. Her knowledge is 14. So I want to roll below. Oops, this should be the other way. I want to roll below a 14 or below. Okay. And if I roll below 14 or below, then I am successful. So let's roll. All right. So we are successful. A 1 is a critical success. A 20 is a critical failure. It's very different from typical D&D. Of course, this is actually just a little bit of backstory. This is kind of like a European D&D setting. It's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's called the Dark Eye. So that's where it comes from. So it is a little bit different as far as like the classes and stuff that you normally would think. Anyway, so that is a success. It's not a critical success, but it is a success, and we get 1 focus token. Basically, you can use these for rerolls or various and sundry things, maybe to dodge or not take an attack. Different things happen with these, so you do definitely want these. So we're going to put that over here by her. And we'll roll the same thing for the scout. She rolls a 7. That is a regular success. You find some useful information, take one of these. Now, there are at most 2 times the number of players, in this case 2. So at most, we can only ever have 4 of these in the pool. We've just handed out 2 of them. So that's how that works. One day later, you pack your belongings, saddle your horses, and ride southwards to the Wildenstein barony, eagerly awaiting the heritage. Despite unpleasant weather, you make good progress on the country road, and spend the nights in cozy inns or farmsteads of friendly peasants whose lands were already freed by the forces of the Middle Realm. You hardly meet anyone in these deserted lands. Only a swarm of crows seems to follow you around. You're surprised by an approaching thunderstorm and have to build a provisional shelter to spend the night. Each hero must make a survival roll. So all these things are going to do add focus, fate points. They're not focus. They're called fate points. It's going to add fate points. It's going to maybe we take some damage before the combat starts. So, and this is all part of the story. All right. So a 5, that is a success. A perception roll. Sorry. No, survival. Goodness, that's a success. You're doing well in the wilderness and get a proper amount of sleep. That's for our heir. And this is for the scout. A 13. Her survival is a 14, so she just barely also succeeded. So you're doing well in the wilderness and get a proper amount of sleep, so there's no negative effects. Awesome. Okay, then the next is 1 day's ride before arriving at Castle Wildenstein. You reach a ford leading through a wild river. You dismount to lead your horses through the water, and an odd silence surrounds you. Make a perception roll. So, perception on Mira, it's one color, Mira, something like that, is 10. So we want 10 or less. Oh, 16. That is a fail. You are surprised and start the next combat with 1 hand card less than usual. So normally you start with 5. We'll actually start with 4. For the scout, perception is at 12. She does succeed. It's a trap. Fortunately, you see it coming and are well prepared for the danger ahead. All right. A ragtag band of dirty figures breaks their cover and charges for you. So this is where it's going to tell us how to set up the board. Like I said, I've done a little bit of this ahead of time, but there are some things that I did want to show you. So assemble all Wildenstein 1 cards with a difficulty of our choice. There's the standard difficulty. And Gripbeard Gout Groves. That's this lovely gentleman here. He's the leader, and he's going to have some health. He's going to have some stats, some defense, some evasion, and take actions. Let's see here. Let me get to this other. I really need 2 things for this. He's going to take actions. Gosh, focus. Okay, well, if you pause to go back and pause it, you can see it. Anyway, he's going to take actions that allow him to, maybe he does some damage for an attack, or maybe he'll do other things, but he'll have a certain number of actions. And in this case, his actions are 2 more than the party, or the size of the party, so it's 2. So we've got him out there. Then it says, next pick all event cards with the keywords General Waters, Forest, and shuffle them into a draw pile. So we have various cards over here. Some of these are for different things. Like this is event card. We have some grave cards because there's a specific one of the encounters uses those. Some demon cards because you can potentially some demon leader actions. So again, all of this stuff that you're gonna do, this book tells you how to set that up. So I'm getting past everything, getting to the event cards. So I'm at the event cards now, and it says General Waters and Forest. So each event card has a keyword on it that tells us what it is. So we're gonna look through these, pull all the General Waters, General, and Forest. Ruins, Demon Conjuration, Undead. Okay. So I've got all those. I'm going to shuffle those up. And put these over here. Out of the way. Cool. Oop. It's kind of hard to shuffle like 7 cards, but we're going to make it. All right. So awesome. All right, cool. There's our event deck. So what's going to happen is at certain points during the game, the ends of certain rounds, it's going to say, depending on how much time we have left, we start basically with 7. So at round, and this is all on this time card. Round 6, we draw an event card. At round 5, we draw a new henchman card. At 4 and 2, we draw an event card. At 0, it starts doing damage. So that's how that works out. The largest of your attackers barks his orders from the other side of the river. Go get them, and you know the one that has to die. He points one of his gout-ridden fingers at the air. This is combat starts. Okay, so this is where we start building some other stuff. So we build a henchman deck. All henchman cards use the keyword bandit. So here is a rather thick deck of all the cards for everything that I've opened to this point. So again, each one of these have a keyword on it, and we're going to find all the ones that say bandit. And give me just a minute to go through this. I was going to do this ahead of time, but I thought, I want you guys to see what that is. So that's bandit. That's orc, but it does also have bandit, so it does count. Orc bandit, orc archer, crazy charlatan, Bucanian beachcomber, mean highwayman, orc highwayman, another orc bandit, another beachcomber, bandit thief, human bandit. There's lots of bandits. Orc bandit, goblin, supernatural, animal. I think that's gonna probably it. Swarm animal, supernatural, undead, animal, goblins. Undead, undead, undead. Undead. Yes, that is all of the bandits. Okay, cool. So we set all those to the side. All right, so we take all these, we give them a good shuffle. And let's switch back over to this mode so I can see. All right, we're shuffling, shuffling. And I think I'm the only one watching now. All right. I think I've got them fairly shuffled. All right, so we're gonna put those. Let's just put those over here. All right, and then it says threat value, the number of heroes times 5, so that's 10 threat. So what we do is we start pulling off the top of this deck, and each card has a threat value in the corner, and this is 5. So once we hit 10 or more, we stop pulling cards. So there's 5, that's 10. So we stop. Now there are events and other things that could potentially bring out more henchmen, which is why we have the deck over here, but that's what we're fighting to begin with. You immediately lose the combat when the heir is defeated, so we cannot let Miri get defeated. And you're victorious when you defeat or put to flight all opponents while the heir stays alive. Reward cards equal to the number of heroes. So once we beat them, then we'll get 2 reward cards, and we'll be able to split those up between the 2 of us and take what we want, and use that to enhance our deck. And again, as I said, once you complete all the acts, if you want to go on to additional acts, and there are 2 or 3 additional acts that are out that you can buy, and I've got those. We're going to start with this one first. You can play 4 to, and as each expansion actually adds additional characters to play, and the limit in a couple of them actually increase the number of people that you can play at the same time. So, right. So now we have combat. So the first thing we do is we're going to start by pulling the cards into our hand, and we're going to pull those cards, and then we're going to get rid of any cards that we don't want, and then draw back up to our hand limit. So we're going to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for her, the scout, and 1, 2, 3, 4, because remember she has 1 less at the start of her turn. I would interpret that as we only get 4 to pick from to begin with. So I'm looking at the cards, and we can choose to turn them in or we can not. So the way this works, the way that the combat system works is you have cards in your hand, okay? And all of these cards, some are permanent cards, like weapons and such, that will stay out here that are essentially gear, and you can keep playing those. Or once you play those, they stay there, and then you can activate them. Or there's some one-shot type things, like for instance, this is a healing potion, heal 6 for 1 hero. That's a one-shot deal. You have that in your hand, you play it. Once you run out of cards in this deck, that's it. There's no reshuffling the discard pile. Once you're out, you're out. And what you have left is what you've got to get through with. Each card has a cost in this top left corner. That's called endurance. So what happens is the mechanism that you pay for this is at the start of your, well, not really the start of the turn, in a story mode, which is what we're playing, before we start really kind of the combat round, we pick a number of cards, any number of cards we want from our hand, and we set those aside, and those are what we call endurance. And then whenever we want to play a card, or we want to activate, for instance, activate an attack on a card, or some kind of special ability on a card, then we activate some number of endurance. So we basically, since we can't say tap, that's copyrighted, we'll say exhaust that endurance card. And then once we're out of endurance cards, then we're done. We can't do anything else. Then it would go to the next player, and then the monsters, all the people that were fighting in combat will get to go and do their turn. So, let's start with the air. So she's got a lot of really low cost cards. She's got fixed matrix. If you roll an 18 or 19 on a magic test, I'll talk about that in a second, or attack, you may decide to re-roll it. So that's good. Not great, but it's good. Draw one card from your draw pile. When your hero loses life from an opponent's attack with a Covenant Garb, that's a permanent card. Fixed Matrix is a permanent card. We can add 2 to our ranged attack. Like I said, we'll talk about that. And then we have a spell, which is Suffocation. Discard. This is a one-shot. Discard. Oh, sorry. In an adventure, an opponent of your choice loses 2. So that's the other cool thing about this game is you have some cards. You can play this head-to-head. So you can play against somebody else, and you're basically just trying to kill each other. Or if you play in story mode, the cards work the same way, but some cards, like in this case, the spell card, has one effect for when you're playing against an opponent, and then in an adventure, it does something different. So typically, like discarding opponent's endurance card, that opponent must exhaust all their endurance cards. That does us no good in the story mode. So it has an alternate use in the story mode, which is an opponent of your choice loses 2. So I think for now we're going to actually hold on to all those cards because they're all really good cards for her, especially low cost cards. There's a couple that I feel like we can get rid of immediately. So yeah. Now I'm playing this with 2 characters. You could have just as easily played this with 1, but I just wanted to play it with 2 because I think that's a little bit more fun to watch. It's a little bit more bookkeeping and remembering on my end, but that's okay. So then for the Lariel, our elf scout, we have an elf bow, 1d6 plus 5 damage on a successful attack, which is great, but it's 5 endurance, so it's going to take us a little bit to get to the point where we can even purchase that. We got well-aimed shot. We can basically add damage. We can increase her magic stat. We add to her range stat, or we've got a one-shot heal. Well, honestly, I think magical lore, I think we can get rid of that. I hate to get rid of the bow because the bow does a lot of damage. Gosh, but we really need something to throw away for endurance. Alright, I'm going to get rid of the well-aimed shot too. Let's just see what we get. Alright, so if we get rid of the cards, what happens is we take these cards and we draw 2 new cards in their place. So there's the 2 new cards. Talk about those in a second. We put the 2 cards that we just discarded back into the deck, give the deck another shuffle, or however many cards that you put in it. So we can give it a shuffle, 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 shuffle. This is my shuffling song. Alright, cool. So there you go. So the 2 cards we drew were a 0 cost card. Pick a hero and pay up to 5 endurance. Restore 2 life for each endurance paid. It's a spell card, and that just happens, which is nice. And then we have use on a hero's weapon to add 1 extra point of damage, called Weapons Poison. That's equipment, so that would make our weapons a little bit more deadly. Cool. Okay. So, now the adventure turn works a little bit different than the standard turn when you do kind of like head to head. So the adventure turn is we start by performing phases 1 to 4 of what the duel rules are. So what are the duel rules? Well, we resolve anything that says at the start of turn, which obviously at this point there is none. Then we draw 2 cards from the draw pile. Alright, so 1, 2, and we got, how ironic, well-aimed shot for Lariel, which is one we just got rid of, and then Fulminictus Thunderbolt, which is a spell. It's basically a magic spell that does an attack 1d6 plus however much endurance you paid in damage, up to +6. So cool. So there's that. And then for Mirian, so she can now, from this point on, her hand limit's 5. She just started combat with 1 less. So she's got, she can add +2 to her magical ability, her skill, which is 14, so that could potentially be 16. And then she's got Arcane Meditation, costs 0, she loses 1 life, and gets +2 endurance points to spend until the end of her turn. It's a free action, so we can play it at any point in time. Some of these things you can play only on your turn. Some things you can play at any point in time. Cool. So that's that. Next, ready any unexhausted cards. We don't have any of those because we haven't started. Put up to 2 cards face down as endurance cards. And you can either do that from your hand, or if you do have equipment and at some point you decide you don't need all that equipment or you don't want it, stuff that's permanent that you've already played, you can actually take that and turn that into endurance if you wanted to. But for now, let's see here. For now, so I'm going to get rid of this healing potion. I hate to do it, but we can heal more with some other stuff we have. So that's 1 card. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the well-aimed shot because we did get rid of that earlier. All right, that's for the Elf Scout. So that's going to go over here to the side. So that's stuff that we can spend to play cards during our turn. And for Mira, I'm going to get rid of Fixed Matrix. It says we can reroll basically an 18 or 19 if we're doing a magic attack, but right now we just need endurance cards, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. If I just had a bunch of endurance left over, then I might consider keeping that, but I don't. Then I'm going to discard. I'm going to discard Arcane Meditation. Arcane Meditation. Lose 1 life to gain 2 endurance, but that's nice, but it's not great. I don't want to lose life. All right, cool. So that's that part done. That's the steps 1 through 4. Okay. Then after that, and I'm again double checking myself, so bear with me just 1 second. Unfortunately, they don't have they say steps 1 through 4. Do steps 1 through 4 when you're doing an adventure. But what they don't tell you is what 1 through 4 is, so you have to go back to the normal order to find out what those are. Alright, so then in a clockwise order, starting with the starting hero, each player performs phase 5 and 6 of the duel rules. 5 and 6 of the duel rules is actions. So you can play action cards, make an attack. If you fail, you let's see. It says failure, take a fate point. You can dodge. So the fate points, which is these things that we got earlier, what are they good for? So you can either draw a card at any time, or you can receive endurance, 1 endurance till the end of your turn at any time, or you can reroll attack. If you fail again, though, you don't get a fate point. So, you don't get to kind of farm those up. And then there's some critical success and critical failure things that happen, and we'll deal with that when that actually does, in fact, happen. So we're going to do combat. We're going to start with the first player, which is the heir. So we've got her endurance. So I think really not a whole lot we can do in terms of damage. I'm going to go ahead and use both of those. I'll set that over here. And we're going to play the Covenant Garb, which is a permanent card. Draw one card from your draw pile when your hero loses life from an opponent's attack. It's considered chest armor. I did not mention this, but each hero has a special ability. If we use it, I'll tell you what that is. And every hero has a basic attack that they can do with just one endurance, regardless of what weapons they do or do not have. You can only do one attack of each type, though. So I can only do one melee, one ranged, one magic attack. But I could, if I had the right weapons, do all three on my turn. And that's all the endurance I have, so that's all she can do. So that happens with her. And 5 and 6. Yeah, so then she has to check her hand size, which is 3, which is well below 5. So she is done. So I'm just going to set that over here. You probably can't see it off screen, but that's all right. And then L'Ariel, let's see here. I think, well, we might as well use one endurance to put out this Fulminictus Thunderbolt, which is a magic attack. And I think that's all we're going to do for her in terms of that. But we do have one endurance card left over, so we are going to use it to make an attack. And we're going to make a ranged attack. I could make this magic attack, but my magic score is much lower than my range. My range is a 12, my magic is a 9, so we're going to go with the a little more likely to hit. So the ranged attack, if it hits, it's 1d6. And if we roll it, we hit. And who are we going to hit? They all have armor. And these two have 3 armor, which means the first 3 damage doesn't even count. So that's why there are cards that say just do straight up damage. That's why those cards are there and they're so good. Is because we can just do straight damage and completely bypass the armor. Let's go with, because we got to get them all out of here. Let's go ahead and go for the leader who actually has the least amount of armor. So let's roll. We're looking for underneath a 12. We rolled a 13. That's a miss. Okay, so whiffed it. Yay. Not really. That was a sarcastic A, just so you guys know. All right, that takes care. So that is the end of all the players' turns. The opponents act in the order in which they're assembled. So we'll start with a leader and then work our way through the henchmen. So the leader, he has a table. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I forgot to read this card, so I could have actually not attacked Gripbeard. His ability says this leader can only be attacked when there are fewer henchmen in play than heroes. So we'd have to have one henchman or no henchman before we could even attack him. So we're going to have to get rid of these guys. So there we go. The number of actions he has is he has 2 because it's the number of players. So we'll roll on the first one, which is a 12. Attack. The hero with the most endurance cards suffers 1d6 plus 2. They both have the same number of endurance cards. So we're going to go to our little bag here. And it's going to be Mira takes 2. Now from this point on, hopefully. So she goes from 40. They all start at 40. She goes to 38. Oh, and L'Oreal missed, so she actually gets another focus fate point because she missed. Right. So that's damage to her. Second is, oh, jeez. We'll just choose to give L'Oreal this damage. Same thing. Another 12. Alright, they both got attack. Now we go to the Orc Highwayman. And that's a 7. You want to roll high with these guys. 5 to 12. Attack. A hero chosen by the group suffers 1d6 plus 2. We do not want to lose the air, so I'm going to say let's do L'Oreal. And also, oh goodness, also I forgot. We'll go back. Let's go back to this first one. Each character and some of the henchmen and leaders have evasion scores. So if we roll below their number, then it reduces the damage by half. So L'Oreal, oh, she would only have taken 1. So I called her, so that's 39 for her. And Miriam, L'Oreal's is 6. Miriam's evasion is a 5. She took the full 2 points. Okay. So the Orc Highwayman does 1d6 plus 2. We're going to do it to L'Oreal. So let's roll the damage. Oh, really? Of course. Why would it not be? 6 plus 2. Let's roll for evasion. She doesn't have any armor or anything. She does evade. Wow. So that's 8. Half of that's 4. So she'll go from 39 to 35. Who fortunately only has 1 action. The Mean Highwayman. Oh, jeez. 4. A hero chosen by the group suffers 1d6 plus 3. Well, I'm going to say L'Oreal again. Alright, 6 plus 3 is 9. She is taking a beating. Let's see if she can evade this one. Oh my gosh. That is amazing. So she takes half, rounded up, so she's going to take 5 for that. That's 3 evasions in a row, guys. This elf has been taking her cues from Legolas, clearly. Okay, so that's the end of the enemies. A time counter is removed from the time scale card, so we move that out. And then we check the cards. Now we have 6 counters. And on the sheet it says when we have 6 counters, draw 1 event card. So we pull our event from the top of the event deck, and it says it's general event. Onwards, the leader shouts at his henchmen, "Don't tell me you feel intimidated by these miserable fools. Get a grip on yourselves. Attack." His unflattering words have little effect on you, but they rally his henchmen and rouse them to attack with renewed bravery. Every opponent, this is the effect, has +1 action in the next turn. Seriously? I'll set it up there for now. Wow. Or actually, you know what? Let's just put it. Let's put it on top of his card. Wow. So he's going to get 3 actions. They're going to get 2 actions each. That's going to be 7 actions. Holy smokes. Oh, the time effects. So we don't have anything that happens at the end of our turn. There's no effects that do that. So then we switch the first player token. First player token goes to L'Oreal. And that's a full round. And we do this 6 more times, hoping that we can destroy these people before then. And yeah, all of our endurance cards will be unexhausted. So boom, boom, and that's her hand. So let's start with the first player. We're going to draw 2 cards to our hand. All right, so we get a Dirk, a 2 endurance to play. It's a 1d6 plus 2 melee attack, which is nice. Luck, It's a one-shot. Reroll a hero's failed attack. Subtract 3 from the result of the new roll. That does cost 1 endurance to play, though. Wow. Man. I think we're going to get rid of the weapon poison, which was the +1 damage, and luck. Because it really be nice to get another weapon out there. And we do have at least one other way to heal. So we're going to put those two on the endurance pile. So now we've got 4 cards to use for endurance. So that's how your endurance build. And that's how things that cost 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to play can eventually get played. Kind of more towards the end game with their very strong effects. So that's the 2 cards there for her. Let's see what Myra can get. All right, so we have a 1 endurance quarterstaff, which is a melee attack, which is great. And then Balsam, it's basically a heal card. There are some cards that are kind of similar, or maybe even the exact same. They're not unique necessarily with this healing card, because actually we got rid of this same healing card over here for the scout. All right, so we have to get rid of 2. Man. All right, I think we're going to get rid of... We're going to keep the one-shots. We're going to keep the quarterstaff. We're going to get rid of Sleight of Hand, which adds 2 to our archery, our ranged attack, and Magical Aptitude, which adds 2 to our magic. The Magical Aptitude would be nice, but we really need to get some endurance cards out where we can do some stuff eventually. And I really like the heals because we might need them. All right, so those 2 are going to go to the endurance pile, which leaves you with 3 in our hand. And that is the first part. That's steps 1 through 4. Now we're going to clockwise order for the first player, attack. So we're going to start with Lariel, or we're going to play cards and attack. So the first thing we're going to do is pay 2 endurance to put out the dirk. So that is a melee weapon. Then that leaves us 2 endurance left. And I think with 2 endurance left, we just need to attack. Yep. I think we need to attack. All right. So we use the first endurance to do a ranged attack. Ranged attack value is 12. So here we go. And 2. So that is, I should have called a target. All right, to be fair, evens the Orc Highwayman, odds the Mean Highwayman. So the Mean Highwayman. So that is a hit. That's 1d6. So let's roll the damage and hope we get 4 or higher. It's 2. He's got a defense of 3. Nothing happens. Yay. Then we've got, the next one is, we'll do another attack. And when we do that, we've used that weapon. And we can only do 1 of each attack a turn. So we can only do, as I said before, 1 melee, 1 ranged, 1 magic. So we've done our range. That came from this card, the hero card. So we can't use that again. But we do have this melee weapon, so we will use the dirk. Now, 8 is her melee score, so we want 8 or less. She does manage to hit. It is a d6 plus 2, and we'll attack the same person and get a 3. And cry like a baby. I don't think I can use the fate points to reroll damage. Let me just verify that right quick. Combat, draw piles. The adventure, special cards, one snare. You can check square one where you see what was fall. So we can use basically use the fate points, it looks like, actually as rerolls. Is that what I'm seeing here? Yeah, rerolls. But I think combat rounds, your turn. We'll get a fate point per the normal rules. That's fine. Oh, sorry guys. Just give me a second here. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah. So I guess it's all right. So I'm thinking that we can do any of the three things. So we can draw a card, receive one endurance, or reroll an attack. So, but that's only the test. So it just determines whether you hit or not. You don't get to reroll this damage. So 2 plus 1 is 3, which is not enough to do anything. And I have no endurance, and I have nothing else that I want to play. So our scout's turn is done. Now let's go to our Mirror the Air. Oh, you draw 2 additional action cards at the start of each turn. Each combat. Oh, that's only the first time. So she was down 1, so let's just give her, yeah, 1 more card. She actually had 5 normally. So, all right, so we'll just add a card for that. So we've got, we drew Fulminictus Thunderbolt. Okay, so this is the same card we've got over here. Of course, the trade-off is, even though it's the same card, Lariel's got, what, a 9, and she has a 14. So obviously the mage is going to be much better at casting spells, but Lariel could possibly do that. So, cool. All right. Well, I think first things first. Let's get out this quarterstaff. So we're going to play 1 of our endurance to play this quarterstaff. That will give us possibly a melee attack. And on our turn, it's a 1-shot suffocation. I think it's worth it to go ahead and play it to do an immediate, to do an immediate 2 damage to an opponent of our choice. Now, the interesting thing is the card says the leader can only be attacked. This is not an attack. So I think we're going to target the leader. Now, the rules, the book suggests that you put tokens out on everybody and then start counting down, basically pulling the tokens off. I like to leave all the tokens off and then just start as I add and do damage to them. Some people like to do it the other way so they know when they have 0, but this is just the way that I like to do it. So that's the way I'm going to do it. So we got, and almost all tokens in this game are double-sided too. For adventure things, they're the cards that have effects and whatnot and damage and everything. So cool. All right. That leaves us with 2 endurance cards. So what we're going to do is we're going goodness, we're going to use the 2 endurance cards to do a magic attack and a melee attack. So I'm just going to go ahead and pay both of those. And we'll start with a magic attack, 14 or less, and we're going to target the highwayman because he is the toughest. It's a 3, that is a hit. It is just 1d6. So we get a 3, and it's absorbed by their armor. Yay! Not really. All right, melee attack. Oh, 6. Oh, look at that, a 4. She actually did it. And this is a d6 plus 1. So, again, the Orc Highwayman. Oh, there's a 6. That's a 7. Okay, so that's 7 damage. He does not have evasion. He's gonna absorb 3 of it, so the 7 becomes a 4. So he takes the full 4. Now, let's say that he had an evasion and he had successfully evaded. Would have took the damage, which would have been 7. He would have evaded, so we'd have said half that, which would have been 4. His armor would have taken 3 of that off, so he'd only done 1 point. But as it stands, we did 7. He absorbs 3, so he takes 4. Nice. That's almost a third of his health. What's not nice is remember we've got that event card. Oh man, all the actions these guys are fixing to do to pummel us into the ground. All right, and this is her hand. We'll put that right there. All right, so let's do it to it, shall we? Start with the leader. Remember, he gets 2 because there's 2 heroes, and actually a third because of the event card, Urge On. So 5. The heir suffers 1d6 plus 2. And if she takes any damage, 1 or more, she must discard 1 card of her choice from her hand. Golly. Okay. Oh, man. 1d6 plus 2. Seriously? That's 8. She'll try to evade. Critical fail, which fortunately on evasion doesn't mean anything. So she's going to take 8. So we'll mark her. No, we need to do this in order because there's several things that are fixing to happen here. So she takes the 8. All right, that's number 1. Then it says, if the attack causes her to lose, if it's the heir, target the person. If the attack causes her to lose, she must discard 1 card of her choice from her hand. So we have to get rid of 1 of these cards. Man, they're both good cards. Oh, man. I really would like to keep that Thunderbolt, but I'm probably going to need some healing. So I think I'm going to have to discard the Fulminictus Thunderbolt. But as the Covenant Garb says, draw 1 card from your draw pile when your hero loses damage, loses health from an opponent's attack. So she actually loses 1, but then she gets to turn around and draw 1. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Invocatio Major. This is a spell card. It counts as, it's a 1-shot. It counts as your magic attack for your turn, but it does 12 damage. Of course, it's 4 endurance to play, so that is a significant amount of endurance to spend, but that's okay. That is okay. Right. So, that's his... Oh, gosh. That was his first attack. Right? Yeah. His second attack is a 20, does nothing. We like those. His third attack is another 20. Wow. What's the deal with that? All right. Oh, the eye's a 1. That's right. All right, so cool. He's done. Orc Highwayman. Remember, we have 2 attacks with him. First attack is a 14. Nothing. Shouts an Orc Curse.